I hate narrative. It like comes out like a script the first time I write it because it's just like dialogue, dialogue, dialogue. I love this author. Your book, and it's fun and it's relaxing. Crazy things happen. Then you're just on the edge of your seat like, welcome back to my channel. Just kidding. This mic doesn't do anything. It's hooked up to my computer for my other channel, secret channel, and I use this mic for that purpose. Anyway, so that would be cool though. It looks cool. So I'm gonna leave it here. I've decided that today, if you don't know from the title of this video, we are going to read 1-star reviews of my favorite, or some of my favorite books. I couldn't even think of like all the books I like, but these were just a handful of books that I could think of. So I'm going to start with the Shatter Me series, or at least the first book in the Shatter Me series. And I have to tell you, after reading the Shatter Me series, Tahereh Mafi became my favorite author of all time. I absolutely loved that series, and I love her, and I love her writing and everything. So let's get started. Okay, this one is titled Pitter Pattering to Life Like a Rush of Raindrops. I thought I was reading a dystopian YA book, not a wannabe poetry book. Every paragraph had a smile, metaphor, prose, or figurative language. Hell, some paragraphs had one in each sentence. Okay, so here's my defense for this. The main character is crazy, just crazy. That is partly why it was so prose heavy, and if you read any other Tahereh Mafi book, it's not quite what Shatter Me was, but it captures the main character, the crazy, nutty main character, and I thought she like got into her head so well. Like, it just felt real. Like, I believed that the character was thinking all of these things. So I'm a bit, you know, I disagree. Obviously, I disagree. Then she goes in a quote. She repeats herself, constantly repeats herself. Well, that mean the main character's crazy. Yeah, she repeats herself. The strikeouts, the ever-present drive me up a freaking wall and make me want to stab my eyeballs out with a rusty nail. Strikeouts. If you value your sanity, your eyesight, trust me, do not go here. Just read the first page and you'll agree the strikeouts are very maddening. It's narrating the character. Okay, moving on. No, thank you. It was a fun read for a few pages, but I became tired of it quickly. The characters are devoid of any real depth or personality, which I suppose is fitting considering the lack of any substantial world building or plot developments. There's so much world building and there's so much plot in these books. Okay, it's the first book. If you just read the first book, like it is not, I mean any series, right? The more in depth you get with the series, the more in depth the world gets, the more in depth the characters get. It's the first book of a series. Like, you have to keep reading. In hindsight, I should have expected this and believed all the other reviews online which contain the exact same message as this one. However, I wanted to judge for myself whether this book was worth reading, as there are many overwhelmingly positive reviews in addition to negative ones. Now, after giving the book a read and going back to the aforementioned positive reviews, I realized that most were written by preteens. Excuse me. Okay, all right, fine. One more, I guess. All right. Insta love. Flat characters, repetitive and annoying writing. She's representing a person with the writing. Like, the writing is the main character. It's an I format. The writing is the main character. That's why it's repetitive and annoying, because the main character is the batshit crazy. Insta love, I don't, oh gosh, I would have to go back and read it, I guess. I don't know, maybe, but maybe between the two, but there's also not insta love. That's a complicated way to, I can't answer that without spoiling it, but there's insta love and there's also not insta love. So maybe there is, but it's also like, I enjoyed it. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not totally against the whole insta love trope, but you know, Well, flat characters, absolutely not. 100%. Like maybe the love interest in the first book, he was flat. But there was the friend. I don't know if he's in the first book, but there's the friend. He was like, I loved his character. Absolutely loved his character. He was funny. He was cool. Like I could like hear him in his voice. Like, and then the other one, the other love interest, and the main character, absolutely not flat. Like so far from flat. Okay, all right. Now that I've got myself worked up about that one, how about this one? There's only 2 1-star reviews on this one, so it is This Woven Kingdom, which I'm currently reading the 3rd book in this series. So This Woven Kingdom is the first book, and I absolutely love this series. I read This Woven Kingdom, then I read These Infinite Threads, and then I had to wait almost a year to read this 3rd book, and I am blowing through it because, again, I love Tahereh Mafi, I love her writing, and I love this series. So, first review, hard pass. She meets the devil on page 6. Less than 10 pages into the book, the main character is met by the devil. Not a book for me. Okay, look, this isn't a book about hell. It's not like fiery devil. It's, I don't even know. I mean, they're calling this being a devil, but I don't even know if that's accurate. As I keep reading the series, I'm still not like hard set that this is the devil, that they're hearing whatever, you know, like there is so much depth to this world and to the history and the tension between the characters and who you think a character is, but then find out that's not really what they are. You have to get over the devil thing. I mean, it's not like, you know, the way Supernatural, if you've watched the Supernatural series, like that got like angel, demons kind of thing. It's not like that at all. At all. Second review. So many words. And half of them don't make sense together. It's babbling. The author is trying to create intrigue, but it just leaves me shaking my head and asking myself, what the heck I just read? I hate narrative. I hate description. Even in writing my own books, it like comes out like a script the first time I write it because it's just like dialogue, dialogue, dialogue. I love these books. I love this author. The way she writes narrative is just like you just cozy right up with your blanket and your book, and it's fun and it's relaxing, and then like crazy things happen. Then you're on the edge of your seat, like, you know, like there's not so many words in this series, like compared to Throne of Glass. One book is 980 pages. You want to talk about so many words? And I mean, not much happens in that book. Honestly, if you were to condense it down, not much happens in that book. A lot of things happen in This Woven Kingdom. I disagree. Okay? Capiche? Next book. Speaking of Throne of Glass. No, not Throne of Glass, because it's not on my top #1 favorites. But A Court of Thorns and Roses. Now, these reviews are very wordy, which I find very interesting. Okay, this one I like. Don't understand the hype. To be honest, I did not get very far in this book because I decided to give up and look for another book to read. Now, I will say the first like 20 to 50 pages, I struggled with it too, because it wasn't very fantasy or fantastical or whatever. Like I was promised like the romantasy, right? Like fairies and romance, and you know, and it was like dark, cold woods, killing animals, struggling to survive. I was like, I didn't like the vibes. I hated the vibes. I absolutely did not. I was like, it took me a long time to get through the first like 50 pages. So I agree. And then they write, I usually enjoy reading historical fiction books, but I somehow stumbled on Rebecca Yarrow's Fourth Wing and Iron Flame and loved them both so much that after reading them for the first time, I read them both again right away. Okay, this nothing to do with Court of Thorns and Roses. So I was on the search for another amazing romantasy novel. I had high hopes for this book because of all the amazing reviews I read, but the whole time while reading, I kept thinking, when is it going to get good? When am I going to start liking the characters in the book? After a while, I just noticed that I was not excited to continue reading the book. I was dreading it like it was a sign. Okay, so you have to get to like more than halfway, honestly. If you're like really gonna get into what's happening and get into the exciting bit of A Court of Thorns and Roses, it has to be more than halfway. Because unfortunately it is kind of like it's a slow burn, but I mean, that's nothing new with Sarah J Maas. To be fair, I think Throne of Glass was the opposite. Like the Assassin's Blade, I'm calling Assassin's Blade the first book, don't come at me. Assassin's Blade and Throne of Glass, and whatever book came after that, the first 3 or 4 were very good, very enjoyable. I didn't consider it slow. I really liked what was happening. I felt like I got a grasp for the main character very quickly. A Court of Thorns and Roses, that book was slow, but to be fair, that was the only one that was slow, because then the rest of them were like not slow. Of course, A Court of Silver Flames, that's a whole different story. But this is not an ACOTAR video. We're not going to get into the whole series. But after a while, I just noticed that I was not getting excited to read the book. Okay, so I get it. I get it. It does take a while to get into it. It really, really does. But once you get to like the 50 to 65% mark in the book, like you can't put it down. You can't put it down. And then you just read the rest of the series and you're like, what happened to that 2 weeks of my life? Because the series is over. Now what am I going to do? Next review. I want a short one because I don't want to read too much. Not for me. Big words shouldn't be used if the main character can't read. I can read. I can read. Just because Farah couldn't read doesn't mean she can't speak. I can read, so I was reading the big words. Farah wasn't writing the big words. She was thinking them. That's different. First of all, how is Farah so slow at reading words that the author in this book uses big words? Like, that doesn't make, it does make sense. It does make sense. There were times in this book that I didn't even know what I was reading and just scammed through. Maybe you can't, sorry, this is mean. Maybe you can't read big words. That's why you're so upset about it. Secondly, the smut was not it. So if you're used to graphic smut, this is not something to read. One of the reasons why I wanted to read it was because of the smut, but it's very described around what happens. It just wasn't my cup of tea. I don't know how smutty the first book is. I wasn't into it, but there's a reason for that. And I think that it's a good thing that you're not into it in the first book. Not spoiling, but in the second book and the 5th, A Court of Silver Flames, I mean, maybe it's too graphic. There were times, I have to admit, there were times where I was like, whoa, this is, whoa, cool your jets, woman. I kind of can agree. I'm less fired up about these reviews, but I do hold this book very dearly to my heart, and I would reread the series, and I've actually started listening to the audiobooks on Spotify. At least A Court of Mist and Fury I'm listening to on Spotify, because no, delete. I'll put a censor on that word. Yeah, anyway, very good. Next book. This one, I've never heard anybody talk about these books. I feel very, very alone in my love for this stuff. Okay, this one is One Girl in All the World by Kendare Blake. It is a Buffy the Vampire series continuation book. So actually in the series, I haven't finished reading the second book, but in the series, Buffy is not in it and it's questionable as to whether or not she is alive. Is that a spoiler? She's not in it. Okay, it's not about Buffy. It is about Willow's niece. I don't know how she's related to Willow. That doesn't make sense. Willow doesn't have a sister. What? What is this book about? Frankie Rosenberg. Frankie Rosenberg. But how is she related to Willow? Guys, Amazon is not useful for this. Well, Frankie's related. Oh, is she her daughter? She's her daughter. Willow's gay. Okay, guys, just trust me on this. It's Frankie Rosenberg. So this is a while later. Spike is in this series, and Spike is so well created. I just absolutely love reading Spike. Okay, so we have a 1-star review. We have one 1-star review. Okay, so this is titled, "Even the author admits there's nothing unique or special here." Okay. In an interview with James Whitham, the book's author Kendare Blake literally says, "I tried not to bring anything unique and special into the Buffyverse. Nobody wants a Buffy book by Kendare Blake. That's ridiculous." Yeah. Yes. I agree with Kendare Blake. I didn't want to read a Buffy by Kendare Blake. I wanted to read a Buffy book. I wanted it to feel like I was watching the show, and I will tell you, she nailed it. She nailed it. She knows what she's doing. I felt like I could hear Spike's voice in my head, like I was watching the show. That's what I wanted. I don't read the Buffy comics because it doesn't feel like the show, but the Buffy book by Kendare Blake feels like the show. The characters, even Willow sounds like Willow. I mean, it's just, yes, we don't want unique or special here. With such brevity in her own words, the author explains that her 2 lackluster swings at Buffy the Vampire Slayer stories. So far, these stories are frustratingly concerned with retreading territory from the show, yet uninterested in the depth of the meaning that the show had to offer when covering the same topics. Uninterested in the depth of the meaning that the show had to offer. What has made this television show's mythos endure for nearly 30 years is that it is meaningful. Unlike so many of the ships it launched, Star Charm, Supernatural, The Vampire Diaries, Twilight, etc., Buffy the Vampire Slayer is singular among its lesser for its use of the supernatural drama genre to explore deeper human stories about the real-life struggles we face. Buffy's mythos is best as metaphor, and Blake is mostly a clunky derivative literalist. Wow. Okay, we're throwing the slang here. Okay, all right. And thinking about it, yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any heavy human metaphors. It's not the portrait of Dorian Gray, which is next. It's, but I don't know if at this point, years after Buffy has aired and ended, decades, I don't know if Buffy fans are going into an extra Buffy thing, not made by Joss Whedon, for human metaphors. I didn't. I just wanted to feel for the world. I just wanted to feel for the characters. I want to know what happens, right? Like, after Buffy ends, especially after Angel ended, I wanted to know where that could go. And I was looking, I would write something if I was interested in writing fanfic, but I have way too many other things going on in my life, and I'm writing my own novels, have my own stuff, and I want to get from a published author, so I don't have time to write fanfic. But anyway, if I were to write fanfic, it would be Buffy or John Constantine. DC Legends of Tomorrow, I highly recommend a watch, but also you have to watch like the entire Arrowverse. Anyway, sidetrack. Um, is Disney Hyperion so concerned with drawing young cash cows to their IP at the expense of driving out fans of the series who expect more? Even so, the caliber of this writing just isn't going to accomplish the task of drawing in new fans. It just doesn't hold up, and it's very frustrating. I understand why this person's getting so upset, because the people who love Buffy love Buffy. I get it. But honestly, I don't think, and there's only one star review. How many reviews overall were there? And I didn't read this whole review because it's very long. 199. There's 199 reviews. One person rated it 1 star. I think if you are a avid Buffy fan, you love the characters, pick this book up. Pick this book up. And I think, you know, there are like the way that the show was, you know, there was this big, like, big bad. There was a big bad in each season. And then they also had like the small, like, serial, like, go get this guy kind of thing. This book is doing that. There is like kind of a bigger bad. It spans the 2 books that are out. I don't know if there's going to be a 3rd one. Again, I didn't finish the 2nd book. It didn't hold my attention as much as the first. Like, the first one I read in a couple days because it held my attention. I was excited. 2nd book's a little less exciting. But again, big Buffy fan, read it. It's worth a read. I mean, Spike, especially if you're a big Spike fan, like, to get him back again for a little while, I enjoyed it. Okay, now, The Picture of Dorian Gray. This is a classic, Oscar Wilde. I listened to it on Kindle just recently, and it's over. I loved it. I have to get the paper book so that I can highlight and annotate. And I'm not an annotator, I'm not a highlighter. I don't usually do this to books. I'm usually like, keep my books nice and pristine and don't injure them. But there were so many amazing like quotes and theories about life and sprinkled into this, and the overall story, you know, what it has to say about people and human nature. Amazing. And listening to it on Kindle, if you like the British accent, it's worth a read. It's worth a listen. So first one here, it's very long. I'm just gonna read the first sentence. 1 star because I loathed Dorian Gray and Henry what's his name. You're supposed to. I think you're supposed to, especially Dorian Gray. You're not supposed to like Dorian Gray. Lord Henry. I loved Lord Henry. He would say things and I was like, yeah, that's true. That's right. I loved Lord Henry. That was from his first lines. That's what drew me into the book. I was like, this is gold. It was hilarious. It's funny. Everything he says is just like, it's so good. Morally shady, immoral characters have never appealed to me. I like morally gray characters. I love morally gray characters. And then they write a notable exception is Wuthering Heights. There are some things about this book that I do critique, and it is the way that it is structured. There is a chunk in the book where it totally strays from the main plot, the main characters, and you don't fully understand why until you keep listening to it, or reading it, sorry. And it feels kind of disjointed, disconnected, but it comes back around full circle, so it was almost necessary to hear it. I think there is a different way it could have been structured so it didn't feel so like jarring. That is a critique that I agree with there. I would also condemn a work of art if I found it preaches, encourages, praises, or otherwise tries to present in a positive light an action or idea that I consider to be immoral. Obviously, homosexuality does not belong in this category if that is what Wilde was trying to get around. I believe he was. In the 1800s, homosexuality was illegal, and Oscar Wilde was, at the very least, bisexual, and I think Dorian Gray was. I don't think that's a spoiler. If you consider that a spoiler, I apologize. I'm sorry, but it's not explicit in any way. There is a movie adaptation where they do make that explicit. I'm curious about, obviously homosexuality does not belong in this category, if that is what Wilde was trying to get around. I would also condemn a work of art if it preaches, encourages, praises, or otherwise tries to present in a positive light an action that I can deem moral. So I don't know what this person is trying to say, but I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of books that praise things that are immoral or even illegal that I find entertaining, so I disagree with them. Okay. I'm not gonna read the last bit because it's a spoiler. Next one, 1 star. I'm sure I'll like this book, but it was boring, long, and uninteresting. I'm sure I'll like this book, but it was boring. Maybe they need to take a writing class. Maybe, hold on, in check. In check? In check? I don't know what that is. I feel like this person needs to take a writing class or two. Maybe it was long, uninteresting, and boring because you don't understand how language works. Sorry, that was mean. That was mean. That was mean. The long descriptive passages were the death of me. I read a paragraph and immediately forgot what it was about. You have to pay attention to this book, and that's also why I want to get the paper version of it so I can take my time, because listening to it, it does happen kind of fast. There are there's long tangents, but they're poetic and they have meaning and they are describing something, so I disagree. This one's very long. No. For once, I'm going to follow one of my mother's favorite admonitions. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. Okay. This one said it was a snooze fest, and that was all they said. And another one said that it took way too long to explain what the plot was. I think the plot was very intricate and complicated, and you have to understand the characters and the story. And I mean, it spans like 18 years. So for it to be 200 pages, I think is totally fair. Just saying, I don't know, you have to have some sort of poetic mindset, and you have to feel something for the idea. I mean, the world we live in today, for the most part, homosexuality is not a sin, okay? But you have to have some sort of idea for the struggles that it is and the internal struggles of enjoying something that feels totally human and normal, but yet the world considers a sin. Like, you have to have some kind of empathy for that in order to really grasp the true joy of what this story is, okay? That's it. That's all I have to say. I'm done. Dorian Gray, to me, 5-star read. 5-star read, absolutely. And I don't know if I think I probably listened to the censored version, so I have to find the uncensored version somewhere because that sounds really exciting. So that's all I have for the 1-star reviews of some of my favorite books. I hope you enjoyed. I look forward to seeing you next time. I hope you have a wonderful day, and until next time.